Hello and hey, mess around with Baldur's Gate 3, so you want to be a druid. Nature and stuff, huh? Dig. Let's dive in. Druids revere nature above all else, gaining their magical powers from the force of nature itself. For druids, nature exists in a precarious balance that must remain in equilibrium. Funny enough, this is mirrored in the real world. They are viewed by the community in two very different lights. Half seem to say their interpretation in Baldur's Gate is quite weak, that their inability to interact with spells and features while in wild shape make them wholly unplayable. The other half looks at them like 100 plus hit point sponges with interesting and unique abilities, getting to live out a class fantasy completely unlike the others, shedding their humanoid form for something a bit more feral. And they're both correct, in the same vein of whether you think you can or you can't, you're right. Druids have their focuses, and if they don't gel with you, you can get more out of a different class. With patch 1 now out and the Spores Druid feature Symbiotic Entity now properly working with unarmed strikes, my first multi-class video thought of Monk Druid becomes a lot more interesting, though we would not go majority Druid, so I'll leave that for another day. Plus, it would come out a lot similar to the Monk build. Also, Druids make excellent summoners, though that playstyle is much more tedious than many will want to participate in despite its power. I do not blame you. So for this, we'll keep it simple, focus in on our wild shapes, Moon Druid style. Looking at our attributes, we don't need any particular values. A suggestion might be 10 strength, 14 dex, 16 con, 8 int, 16 wisdom, and 8 charisma. We take on the physical stats of our forms, but we can't do much with our mental stats in the wild shapes anyways. Constitution and wisdom are pumped for when we are out of wild shape form and focusing on casting. Everything else is just loose quality of life. More than any other build I've ever put a focus on. It is completely your choice. Starting at level 1, we go Druid. There's no funky multi-class shenanigans level 1. In fact, we're going our first double-digit levels in Druid, with some spice at the end to give it focus. Like Clerics, Druids have access to their whole list at any time, so specific spells in the character creator are not as important as other classes. Get to pick your favorites, while I'll add some in that I like as we go. Level 2, we get our Circle the Moon. At this level, it gives us access to the Bear form, a great tank in general, amazing for this level. And we can shift to our wild shapes as a bonus action, meaning we're getting an attack off on the same turn we become an animal. Great for keeping your side's action economy up. Level 3, we get some second level spells. Cannot reactivate things like Moonbeam or Heat Metal while in our form, but we can hold the concentration as long as we keep making the check. So on that first turn, we also have the option to cast a spell like Hold Person in humanoid form before becoming our chosen shape. An alternative to attacking on that turn, but still keeping that action economy up. Level 4, we get that first ASI, an option you can do, especially if you know there are specific forms you want to transform into. Tavern Brawler works for the attack rolls of unarmed shapes. Big choices like Owlbear or the Earth Myrmidon give huge bonuses, while shapes with terrible strength scores like the Dire Raven get big minuses. When you're less chained to ability scores, you get interesting edge cases like this to focus on with your feats, if you so choose. I will, however, advise just pump that wisdom score. Better to have relevant spells than not, even with our commitment to the wild shape circle. Also, we do get new forms in the Deep Rothe and Dire Raven. Level 5, extra attack for our wild shapes, letting us sort of keep pace with martial classes, and getting this a touch early just feels good. Having one attack on a turn and missing feels awful, so even if you only do 4 damage on the second attack, it feels so much better. Level 6, we get Primal Strike, which makes our wild shape attacks overcome resistance for non-magical damage. We also pick up the Panther and aforementioned Owlbear forms, both very solid choices for the level. Level 7 features slow down a bit, but we do get 4th level spells. Taking Stone Skin into your wild shape form from long before combat was even a thought on your mind is never a bad thing, and we get spells like Conjure Woodland Being or Minor Elementals if you did want to lean a bit into the summoning playstyle as well. 1 or 2 summons isn't going to test patience like a full lineup might, so it's up to you. At level 8, we get another ASI. Warcaster is worth a shout as you will get advantage on your concentration checks while in wild shape. Excellent for keeping up whichever spell you chose to use prior to shifting. The alternative is pumping up that wisdom score. Having 20 wisdom for spellcasting DCs isn't our focus, but will definitely help some of those crowd control spells stick and is not to be overlooked. Level 9, we get 5th level spells. Summon Elemental sticks out to me, as that's only ever one creature and his turns are usually both effective and short. If Contagion didn't take 3 full turns to set in, that would be a great way to give vulnerability to a tough foe, but that's how it works in tabletop. This game is just a little faster paced with hasted actions and turns with 4 leveled spells being possible. Makes things like that feel like an eternity. Level 10 is one of the best level ups in the game. Improved Wild Strike is 3 attacks per action for our wild shapes, and the new forms of Dilophosaurus and the Elemental Myrmidons. Very good forms. The Fire Myrmidon is still bugged at the time of this recording, however. Keep an eye on that. The hasted form can break from just moving or doing anything. Not over a dangerous surface, just anything. And you'll instantly go lethargic a lot of the time. Spending an action to incapacitate yourself is a bit more special than what we're aiming for. But level 10 is the core of the build. We can shift into a monstrous fighter that gets 3 attacks per action, has insane mobility, and if it gets dropped to 0 HP, leaves us as a full caster with about 100 hit points. The last 2 levels are not so simple because we cannot use almost any feature in wild shape. A lot of multi-class options fall well short of expectations, but there are a few that make sense. Namely Fighter. First level of Fighter gives us proficiency with martial Myrmidon weapons, which I don't know why you don't get that when you take the form of one, but it's a huge deal to be able to add +4 to attacks, so we will. Fighting styles also work while you're in your shape, so dueling for +2 per attack is on the cards if we don't want to do defense. Then at level 2, you can use Action Surge before you go into your wild shape and get off 9 hasted attacks on some very unlucky enemies. Does lack Smite or +10 flat bonuses from feats, but especially if enemies are prepped to be wet before the carnage, 9 attacks from an Air Myrmidon can deliver hundreds of damage in that first round, and most likely some stuns on top of that. This 2-level fighter dip would, however, lock you out from a 6-level spell, which some of you may consider a cardinal sin. Another option is to fall back on the 1-level wizard dip, especially since we don't really care about most of our ability scores. Could just boost intelligence more than normal, and have a few more options for spells, things like self-haste to point something out. We then use the other level in a class that gives you martial weapon proficiency, and we're cooking with peanut oil. Exploring some other options, a level of Bard will give you 3 bardic inspirations, no matter your charisma score, to hand out. Could be a pal to your party members at the start of an adventuring day, while still getting that 6th level slot. Barbarian can rage on the first turn, then shift at the start of turn 2, though that feels pretty clunky in practice, as most things that require in-battle setup do in this game. But you can't be knocked out of that resistance unlike Stone Skin, so definitely consider it, as staying in your wild shape form is paramount. There's also perhaps a level of Cleric to keep you in Sanctuary for the start of the fight. Lots of classes can give you just that little bit. Ultimately, I think it's a trade-off of preference giving up the 6th level slot for 1 round of fighter damage, or going the Barbarian route and nearly giving up that entire first round to give you the consistency. We'll throw down an example combat of a couple of Moon Druids while we continue talking, can have them each summon their own Myrmidon to add to the carnage. Fun stuff. But back to the point, if we could use features from different classes, this would be a much more interesting decision. But to compromise, do feel forced into a level of a martial class and 1 spellcaster level, which actually puts going to Druid 12 back on the table, grabbing the Weapon Master half feat and grabbing those Myrmidon weapon proficiencies. Those extra 2 levels of Druid mean more HP for wild shapes as well, but there doesn't seem to be an objectively best path. In the background, this is a 12th level Druid and a Druid 10 Barbarian 1 Wizard 1. We've established that the Fighter Burst is incredible, but it's just that 1 round, and if we wanted a burst character, there are way better options. People got mad at me for putting spellcasting and rage together before, so might as well do it again. There are a lot of non-concentration spells that we can use before battle that will affect us while we're in rage. So I'm not too worried about the combo. Of course, we've put points into intelligence to accommodate the spell slots. Things like False Life, Long Strider, Mirror Image, heck, could even do a Warding Bond on this character. But that's the point. If you've gotten to 10th level Moon Druid, you've made it. If you don't like the style, you'll know way earlier than that. But if you do like the style, the last 2 levels can let you refine how you'd like to play, because you can do almost any little tweak. The straightforward Moon Druid might be a bit bland due to not being able to use many features while in wild shape, but no one can say it's ineffective. Just play what you like. Hope to catch you in the next one. As always, thanks for watching, thanks for listening. Be safe, guys.